Once upon a time, on a summer evening, I was chilling at home. With me was my big brother, Mike. I might have been around 11 or 12 years old back then. It feels like ages ago now. Mom and Dad said they were heading over to their buddy's place and wouldn't be back until the next day. They left Mike in charge, even though he was just a couple of years older than me, maybe 13 or 14. Around 8 in the evening, they said their goodbyes and left, leaving just the two of us at home. We had a cozy little house, just one floor, a kitchen to cook meals in, a living room to hang out, and 3 rooms where we slept. Mike's room was near the living area. That means his room was the closest to our front door. My room, on the other hand, was the furthest away. After Mom and Dad left, Mike and I decided to play some games. We headed to the living room, turned on our Xbox, grabbed our game controllers, and dived into our favorite video games. However, an hour or so later, probably close to 9:30 p.m., the sky turned dark and rain started pouring down. Feeling a bit restless and bored of the game, I decided to take a break. Leaving Mike to his game, I went back to my room. I grabbed my tablet and started watching some fun videos, plugging in my headphones to get a better sound. But after a while, I felt like I heard a noise. It sounded like someone or something was moving around outside near my window. Initially, I brushed it off, thinking, it's probably just the wind making those sounds. Our house had this walkway that ran from the front of the house right through to the back, and it passed just outside my window. I heard a distinct squeaking sound, followed by what sounded like our gate opening. Through the noise of the rain, I then heard a soft bang, probably the gate hitting our trash cans. This was odd and was loud enough that I heard it even over the videos playing in my headphones. Curiosity getting the better of me, I paused what I was watching and listened more intently. Then I heard it. Footsteps. They were moving along the path, heading straight for our back door. My heart started pounding in my chest. Panicking, I quickly took off my headphones, letting them fall on my bed, and dropped my tablet in a hurry. Without wasting any time, I dashed to the back door as fast as my legs could carry me. Just in the nick of time, I managed to lock the door right as someone tried to turn the handle from outside. The door's blinds were shut, so I couldn't get a good look. But I did see a shadow. It was a man, standing right outside our back door. After noticing the man, my heart raced as I carefully walked over to where my brother, Mike, was sitting in the living room, engrossed in his game. Trying to keep my voice low and steady, I whispered, trying to get Mike's attention. "Did you hear any weird noises?" He looked up, pausing his game, and gave me a puzzled look. "What noises?" he whispered back, sounding genuinely clueless. Taking a deep, shaky breath, I whispered to him, "There's someone at our back door." I then asked, "Did you lock all the doors?" He shot a quick, nervous glance towards the kitchen door, his eyes widening. I forgot," he admitted in a low voice, looking scared. But before we could do anything about the unlocked kitchen door, I could hear the unmistakable sound of footsteps coming towards it. We wouldn't have enough time to run over and lock it. Acting quickly, I told Mike, "Come with me," and we both dashed into our parents' room, seeking a place to hide. We chose their closet. We locked the main bedroom door and then the closet door, trying to be as silent as we could. The rain outside was still pouring, but the sound that truly terrified me was the noise of our kitchen door creaking open. In the quiet of the room, Mike whispered, "I'm calling the police," and pulled out his phone. As he was dialing 911 and talking in hushed tones to the operator, I could hear the stranger walking around our home. The sound of doors being opened one by one made my heart beat faster. Then, the footsteps reached our parents' bedroom door. The intruder tried the door handle, and when he found it locked, he laughed. His laugh was eerie, almost like a growl. "I know you kids are in there," he rasped in a voice that made me shiver from head to toe. Mike's eyes were wide with fear, reflecting the terror I felt, The stranger started to bang loudly on the door, shouting incoherently. It was terrifying, and I felt like my heart was going to jump out of my chest. Suddenly, everything went quiet. The only sound was the rain outside and our own heavy breathing. For what felt like an eternity, Mike and I stayed in the closet, holding our breath, waiting. Finally, the far-off sound of sirens reached our ears. The relief was overwhelming. The sirens got closer and closer, and soon there was loud pounding on our front door. The police had arrived. We heard them shout, and then the sound of our front door being forced open. They searched the whole house, and one officer found us in the closet and reassured us. He told us to call our parents, to let them know what had happened. The officers didn't manage to catch the intruder that night, but they promised they'd do everything they could to find him. They told us to call them if anything else happened. Although the intruder never returned, the memory of that night, the banging on the door and the intruder's chilling laughter, will always be with me. When I was younger, around the time when kids still liked playing with toys and running around in the yard, my mom and dad would often leave town. They had important work stuff to handle. When they did, I'd usually pack a small bag and head over to Aunt Jane's place. She was nice, but it wasn't like being at home, you know? But things changed when I celebrated my 13th birthday. My parents decided I was old enough to handle things on my own, at least for a couple of days. "You're growing up, buddy," Dad said, patting my shoulder. "Think you can manage without causing a disaster?" Of course, I was over the moon. The idea of being the king of my own castle, even if just for a weekend, was exciting. No more Aunt Jane's boring TV shows or her weird vegetable casseroles. Before they headed out, Mom and Dad gathered me in the living room and went over a checklist. It was mostly basic stuff. Lock the doors, don't answer for strangers, keep the windows shut, and if something felt odd, call Aunt Jane or the neighbors. Once they drove away, I was in solo mode. Most of the time was just me lounging on the sofa, flipping channels and getting some quality gaming in. Time flew by, and being a Friday, I didn't have to worry about waking up early for school. I let the hours pass, watching a movie or two, munching on some chips. When the clock's little hand pointed at 2 a.m, my eyelids started feeling heavy. A yawn escaped, and I thought it best to hit the hay. Making my rounds through the house, I double-checked all the windows and doors. Safety first, right? Mom would be proud. I also pulled down the blinds and shades just for an added sense of security. Then, after brushing my teeth and changing into my favorite pajamas, I turned off the lights and slid under the covers. I was on the edge of sleep, just drifting into a dream, when the distant hum of a car reached my ears. That was unusual. We lived in one of those super quiet neighborhoods where everyone knows everyone, and the only cars you'd hear were from the people who lived here. And to make it even weirder, our house sat at the very end of the street. Not many cars ventured down here unless they had a reason. Trying not to freak out, I kept my eyes shut, hoping it was just a lost driver or something, but the hum got louder and closer, finally halting right outside our house. The engine kept running, a steady purr that seemed to echo in the silent night. There was no sound of doors opening, no voices, just the quiet idling of that engine. My heart started racing. My curiosity got the better of me. Taking a deep breath, I carefully peeked out. I noticed a simple-looking truck sitting directly by our mailbox. Its engine was humming softly. The truck was unfamiliar to me, and the curiosity kept me glued to the window. After a bit, the door of the truck opened, and a man stepped out. He was wearing normal-looking clothes. He stretched his legs and began to look around. He glanced at our house a couple of times, and then, for reasons unknown to me, he decided to stroll into our yard. Now, our yard isn't a small one. It's pretty spacious. We have about 5 acres of land, and a huge portion of it is covered with trees. These trees extend from the side of our house right to the back, fading into our neighbor's land. The man paused for a moment, seeming to decide on something. He kept pacing back and forth, spending some time on the street, then our driveway, and then he did something I hadn't expected. He simply walked into the dense bunch of trees at the side of our yard. Inside, I was panicking. My mind raced, thinking about calling my mom and dad. But it was so late and they'd probably be fast asleep. Should I dial 911? Or perhaps this man had a simple reason for being here, but the fear that he might try to get into our home was too real. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I moved away from the window, making sure to be quiet. Going through every room, I double-checked every door and window, ensuring they were locked. To give the impression that the house wasn't empty, I turned on all the lights. Then, I rushed back to my bedroom, making sure to lock my room door. Carefully, I peeked from behind the curtain, hoping not to be seen. Barely a minute had passed when I heard soft, rustling sounds coming from the area of the trees. I watched with bated breath as the man emerged, jogging back to his truck. He got in and, without wasting a moment, drove away so quickly that I could hear the tires screech against the road. The whole experience left me puzzled and scared. Falling asleep that night took forever, and I kept replaying the events in my head throughout the weekend. Though he never returned, the question remained. Why was he here? What did he want? This happened when I was in my first year of high school. Every day I used to take the big yellow bus to school and then back home. Most days after school, I was the only one at home. My mom and dad would still be at work. One day after getting off the bus, I walked to my house like usual. I reached the front door and tried my key, but noticed the door was already open a little. That was odd. We lived on a street where many people walked by, so we always made sure our door was locked. Being in high school, this kind of scared me. I thought maybe mom or dad had just forgotten to lock it, so I went in. The house was super quiet. I looked around and everything seemed okay. Nothing was out of place. But then, I thought I heard a very soft sound. It sounded like maybe someone was walking on the floor above me. I wasn't sure because it was so faint. I stood really still and listened very hard. The sound stopped, and I didn't hear anything else. Maybe I was just hearing things. After all, the sounds were so soft, I thought maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. After noticing the weird door situation, I made sure to lock the front door right away. Then, I went to the kitchen because I was kinda hungry. I found some pizza rolls in the freezer, so I cooked them and ate a few. Once I was done, I felt like chilling out, so I went to my room upstairs. In my room, I jumped onto my bed and opened up my laptop. I started watching some funny videos on YouTube. There are so many funny videos there. I kept clicking on the next one and the next one. Before I knew it, my eyes felt heavy, and I drifted off to sleep. I think I only slept for about half an hour or so. I woke up because I thought I heard something. I checked my phone and then went back to watching some more videos. As I was watching, I could hear my parents come home. They made a lot of noise, as they always did when they brought home bags of stuff from the store. I paused my video and went downstairs to see if they needed help. Mom and Dad had a lot of grocery bags. I grabbed a couple and began to put things away. While I was chatting with Mom about my day, I heard Dad shout. It sounded like he was upstairs in their bedroom. When he came down, he looked really worried. He said their bedroom was all messed up, like someone had gone through all their stuff. That's when I remembered the front door and how it was open. I quickly told them about it. My parents were surprised. They said when they came home the door was unlocked too, but I was sure I had locked it. Dad picked up the phone and called the police. They came over to see what was going on. After checking the whole house, they didn't find anyone. But Mom and Dad noticed that some of their valuable things were gone. It hit me then. There was someone in the house when I was there. And I even took a nap while they were probably somewhere close by. That thought made my heart race. I was so lucky I didn't go into my parents' room earlier.